Welcome to the Royal Rumble podcast. Ta-da!
In our last podcast, we asked if anybody would like to send us some sort of regal music for up to 14 seconds. And
I've got to say, huge thank you to Petter, the violinist. Petter, thank you so much. Turns out that Petter studied at the Royal College of Music in London back in 1976, stayed at Queen Alexandra's house in Prince Consort Road, right next to the Royal Albert Hall. And Petter heard our request and gave us this amazing piece of music. And there's another piece that we'll play during the podcast as well. Thank you so much. We love it.
Yes, we absolutely love it.
Well, this is a special Coronation podcast, so it's going to be a bit longer than the last ones because we've got so much to tell you.
We certainly have. You start with yours because I think it began before me.
Well, listen, on my way before the coronation kicked off, this is me coming in to Green Park. So I'm very excited because I'm going to get my accreditation as a journalist, and then tomorrow I'm going to be doing my Jubilee show live from Buckingham Palace. It's very posh, you know. So this is where it is. Interesting. I hope there's not a long queue because I'm not good in queues, as you can imagine.
My first experience was coming in on Thursday, just before the coronation, at 10 o'clock at night, when there was no lighting. I had to go and get my accreditation, which was a thing I had to hold round my neck. And I was just lost. I was wandering around. I got no sense of direction whatsoever. So it was super scary. And then at last there was light and they took me through and it was all okay. This was for Australia, Sky News Australia. And I was terrified I wouldn't get there and I'd be too late. It's very, very nerve-wracking when something is going to be recorded on the dot.
I know.
But it all worked out very well.
Tell me about it. Listen, on my way to Green Park on the day itself, look, I love the British police. They are very good. But do you know what? They had recruited people from all over the country. So nobody knew where they were going. Nobody knew where they were. And I'm like, could you not have at least been given a map on your iPhones, all of you? And no. But anyway, so I got to Green Park when I was meant to. Then they sent me all the way down to the wrong end. And then when I got to the wrong end, they said, no, you can't come this way. And I said, I'm going this way. And I said, I'm coming this way because I've got to be live on air at 4 o'clock on GB News. And I just muscled my way through. I was polite, but I thought, no, I'm sorry. I'm not walking half a mile back the way I've come.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Yes. But we got there in the end. It was amazing. And I was there with you, Angela, at the start. And it was just, I actually took over from Nigel Farage, who is an absolute legend. No water queue. He had no water queue whatsoever. 6 hours. 6 hours.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, he just knows his stuff. But I just want to add what happened to me just before that. I was going to some contraption that the BBC had built right by Westminster Cathedral where the service was going to take place. And we climbed up all these stairs and we got to the top and it was absolutely all ready. And then, boom, all the lighting went off.
Really?
The sound went off. They couldn't do anything about it. There were other people up there that they'd rented it off to who were getting very angry. And the timing was going by. I'd been stuck in a traffic jam for 45 minutes before I got there. Okay. It was real chaos. And then suddenly someone had a good idea to change the whole way that the lighting was being done. Boom, boom. And you'll see a picture of me up there later on in the program.
Well, don't get me started on the BBC because you're lucky we actually got to broadcast it on other channels because there was a whole hoo-ha about that. BBC were charging an extortionate rate, in my view, to get the other broadcasters like GB News, Talk TV, and a few others could get on air. And in the end, they did back off and let us all take their coverage of the coronation. But I have to say, I thought the coronation was astonishing. It really was.
Yes, I mean, I was just obsessed with it. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I thought it was brilliantly done, so carefully thought out, and so many different things that you could see that hadn't been there before. People have said, oh, it's got to be modernized, but actually they did it in such a subtle way. You to have women bishops and to have the children there instead of the peers, so that you didn't have lots of people in crowns. You had actually children being useful with the trains for the costume. And what was very, very interesting was that you could see what King Charles was feeling. I mean, Queen Elizabeth's wedding, you were well away from it and you couldn't really see much. It was in black and white. But here you could see a man who was very moved, a little bit scared. And actually,
they both were. We all were.
Yeah, we all were. And actually very spiritual. I thought it was just amazing and perfect in every way. One of the things that was very funny was that Nana and I had a place in a very small sort of tent that had cover over the top, but there was nothing at the back and nothing in the front. And the wind and the rain was pouring in onto your back. So you were trying not to show that you're getting more drenched by the minute. And also what I found difficult, they had stools there quite high and I'm quite small. So I had to climb up on these stools and hope you didn't fall flat on your face amongst all the equipment that was absolutely packed in there. But everyone that we saw and the people who were around were so happy. They were so enjoying it. It was so lovely to have so much positive conversation and the thrill that this one amazing
finally she stopped talking. She's no idea. She's been talking through the whole thing. I'll just let her carry on until she stops. She's like a little wind-up toy. She's finally stopped. Right, thank you. It's my turn now. I did it. No. Well, listen, Angela and I, so Angela was on with me on TV News. I know Angela did loads of other broadcasters as well. But we had this tiny little sort of tent, and obviously the back was open. Some people thought there was glass there, but it wasn't. It was completely open. So the wind was blowing in, the rain was coming through, but nothing could dampen our spirits. I'm sorry, but it was just incredible. I just want to come back to the actual service itself, because for me, I was at home with my kids. I actually pledged allegiance. I got them to stand up. I said, "Come on, everybody, get up, get up." I said, "Africa, Ivory, get up." And they went, "Ugh." I said, "Let's pledge allegiance." And when the bit came, I thought they were going to do it so they do a bit and then you can repeat after them. It didn't go like that. So then I had to repeat for my kids to repeat, and then we lost our way in it. But it was really good fun. But it was short, wasn't it? He'd shortened it as well.
Yes, he changed it and shortened it so that it wasn't so much of a demand. It was a request.
But I think some people went a bit over the top with that. "Oh, we're not going to pledge allegiance. They're forcing us to do it." And it's like, it's like an anthem. It's like the national anthem. Don't be silly. Just join in if you don't want to. Don't if you don't.
I felt that.
Well, you were being
it was
forced.
A bit too much. It was forced. And I thought I would much more likely to do it if they asked me rather than it sounded as if it was being a demand, and I didn't like that.
But I took it for what it was. I knew it wasn't a demand. I knew they couldn't demand it. I just think that some people were being hypersensitive as we hypersensitive or something. I just think it was just, pledge allegiance. It's an old-fashioned way. People were saying we need to modernize, but we want the tradition as well. I thought that was a nice.
It was a tiny bit in the whole thing, and it was just it was lovely. Yes, it was great.
Lots of great bits in it though. The music wasn't the music amazing. I love the bit with the orb and the anointing and all the different things that were presented to him, and the music that came with it. There was one black guy who was just such a good singer.
Yes,
I think it was when the oil, before the anointing, but or was that after, when he was being presented with things from the altar, then they were taken back to the altar.
Yes.
So when the scepter and
beautiful. But I also thought the Hallelujah choir were absolutely sensational, and the way they were moving like waves on the sea, it was just beautiful, and the nuances in their voices were just sort of stunning. I could hear that over and over again.
Was that the black choir, the gospel choir?
Yes.
It's funny that when I watched it, I thought black people have more fun, because it was like the white. I probably shouldn't say that, but no, I'm going to say it. Because the choir, the traditional sort of Christian service was, then the gospel choir came on,
But it was done so subtly. It was really done subtly.
I'm being cheeky.
You are. Yeah.
I'm doing an Akua Ando, but we'll get to her.
Yes.
Dun, 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 not yet. No. Save her for a bit later. What was your favourite bit if you watched that?
There was lots of favourite bits. I love the favourite bit. My one favourite bit is when Prince William touched the crown and then kissed his father, and King Charles said, "Thank you." I just thought that was very touching, because he needed that support from his own family from his son, and I thought that was terrifically nice. I loved to see the three children. I thought that Prince George was very good.
So
He was
good.
first of all standing and slouching a little bit when he had to hold the train, and suddenly he seemed to remember. The shoulders back, held it beautifully, and he was concentrating very hard. And little Louis, who actually was very, very good for someone who's only just 5, was sitting there for ages and behaving himself.
Very good.
But was very sweet, because when they walked into the cathedral, his sister held his hand quite tightly, and so he knew not to behave, because Charlotte is very, very on the button, and he wasn't going to take any notice. But I thought everybody looked lovely. I thought the way that everyone was dressed and the whole atmosphere and the joining together was just sensational, really.
I thought if you look at Prince Charles and Camilla, I thought Camilla looked incredible. King Charles looked incredibly nervous, because when he had his bit there where he had his camera and everything, and then it came to her turn, there was a bit when he was doing it where the camera shot to her and you literally saw her go like that. And then there was also the bit where when the gown was placed on King Charles and William was there was a shot of George, and you saw George, and it was like he was watching, because it was like he was watching very carefully and taking it in. You could see he was absorbing it. The thing about Queen Camilla is that she doesn't like to be in the spotlight. She likes to do things quietly, not necessarily have everybody looking at her. This was a moment when a very heavy crown was going on her head, and she has quite a big head. She's got a big head.
She has got a big head, and they had to make an alteration. Well, everybody has a different size, and they had to sort of make it slightly different and expand it a little bit. And the thought that you could trip and fall over it when you're pulling along this enormous train, I don't think anybody can feel comfortable. It's not like something you do every day or even every 69 years. It's just one of those things, and very difficult. And I think they were both feeling very nervous for each other. They didn't look at each other much. And usually when they're together, they smile and grin, and they've got sort of secret eye movements that actually let each other know. But they didn't, because I think they had to hang on. They'd want to burst into tears of joy or sadness or emotion. They just wanted to stay together. So you could feel that. It's tingling.
Well, it was so sweet. I mean, and I love that shot of them when I think it was they were on a balcony or something, the above shot when they were looking at the crowd, and you could see they remind me of 2 little teddy bears, actually.
No, but they do.
Yeah, they do. No, but I think they're adorable. Basically, they're adorable, especially from the back when they were wearing those little robes and everything. They just they match each other really well. I think they match. They look right together. I know there was all the controversy and Princess Diana. It was very sad, but life has to move forward.
Nearly 26 years.
It has to move forward. You can't live in the past. It was very sad what happened to her, but life goes on. She's a good woman. She was a good woman, wasn't she? And Camilla is a good woman. You can see, and it works for King Charles. I keep almost calling him Prince, but King Charles. But it was a lovely, lovely, lovely event, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it's something that you will always remember, because it drew you in, and it made you feel that you were part of it. And of course, that's what King Charles wanted. He didn't want it to be too far back, that it was something that you couldn't link onto. And all the things about being caring and giving, and he doesn't want to take, he wants to give and look after the country and the people in it. And I think it was very touching. Compassion is one of the words that Harry and Meghan used, but they're actually about themselves.
That was so funny, wasn't it? Look, how did that feather, the amazing feather of Anne, get in the way in that manner? It was brilliant. That must have been planned. I can't even imagine for one moment that wasn't.
And it seems odd, because the last time when there was a big candle in front of Meghan, and this time you've got this large feather, it was very interesting. I must say that although I've criticised Harry a great deal, I did feel very sorry for him.
I didn't feel sorry for him. He brought it all on him. He brought this all on himself. You don't have to release a Netflix documentary. You don't have to go on Oprah and talk about your family in that way. You don't have to release a book You don't have to do all that. All you have to do is speak to your family and have private conversations, and don't air your dirty. No, I've got to say this: airing his dirty laundry in public and in such an awful way. And it's clear that he's angry at the press, who are not his family, by the way. And all this briefing stuff that he was saying, they briefed the press and this and that, doing exactly what he's claiming that they were doing. And he had to be brave to show his face, because he had to show his face. Because if he didn't show his face and he was completely cut off from the monarchy, I suspect that would be the end of his commercial value.
Yes, but I thought it was very sad that he'd come to this.
Yeah,
that he's not such an idiot that he's gone through all this, which he didn't need to do. And to see him standing there on his own, walking through the aisle, walking down the aisle, when all his cousins, the adult cousins, had got married and got partners, and that he was alone. I didn't want Meghan to come, but I did feel that she should have put herself to one side and actually made an effort and been there to help him cope with something that was inevitably going to be very difficult.
No, she would have been booed, and not that anyone wanted.
She would have been booed, but she should have swallowed the boo to look after him.
They just ruined the day. Look, she did the right thing. She shouldn't bother. In fact, it's not necessary for her to come here again ever. Sorry, Meghan. I'm sure you're lovely and all that, but unfortunately, this whole thing that's gone on with all this, the selling of the selling down the river of the royal family, to me, I can't be contending with that. And I love the royal family, even though I've never met them all personally.
Yeah, but
I'm sure, but they represent something that that's very special to this country, and I don't think Meghan fully understood that. But that doesn't matter. She didn't come. She did the right thing.
What I feel is, when you've seen someone who's very alive and charismatic and doing a lot of good work for people and helping, to see them crumble into this.
It's his own fault.
He hasn't been able to handle it. So I still feel sorry that to see somebody once so strong and powerful sort of just crumbled.
Well, maybe, but I mean, from all intents and purposes, from a lot of the things I've heard, he's not necessarily that nice either. Maybe you've obviously met him and he was probably very nice to you, but I just don't think that what he's doing to his family is particularly pleasant.
No, exactly.
So that's just horrible.
I've had no time with what he's doing to his family, but I think just having to see him there on his own was a sadness.
He's only there for how long was he there? I mean, if he was, I think if you're going to do that, you could stay a bit longer. And
I thought it was very rude that he didn't actually wait to say congratulations to his father and his brother. I thought that was completely unnecessary, and rushing off like that. I agree with you, but I think just the visual picture of him, so tense.
Thank God the feather was in the way.
I thought
it's his own fault.
I'm quite tough on these things, but I did feel sad.
I didn't at all. I thought it's his own fault. I mean, you've written a book called Spare, so that you're actually feeling sorry for yourself. A man who's got money in a palace with everything at his disposal, and he can't see how fortunate he is, and he's going on about. I know it's tragic what happened to his mother, but he hasn't got the monopoly on grief. Lots of people have lost their parents, mother, father, and some in far more tragic circumstance than him, and also without the financial backing and assistance that he has. So I just think that he's just very ungrateful, spoilt. I think he's a brat, and I'm glad he's gone back. Right.
Okay. Had it now, finished.
Well, anyway, so moving on to something that's a bit more cheery, because that, I mean, I've got to say that I was blown away by the coronation. There were the protesters there then. Did you? They were arrested.
There were a few protesters in one corner, but not very many. And the police, I was very pleased about this one. They scooped them up and took them off so that they couldn't make trouble and start shouting and lead to actually hurting horses and hurting people. And I thought it was a very good idea. And at the end, they only actually kept 6 of them, and the rest they allowed to go. And there was this then hoo-ha afterwards to say that we had arranged and we had agreed that we wouldn't make a fuss. We would just stand there and we would just wanted to have our say. But I don't think so. I don't think they had free speech for that one day. They can have it for all the other days of the year, but it's 70 years waiting, and they could just be quiet on that day. Listen, didn't bother me at all.
I think they're welcome to their free speech, even on the day of the coronation. But if the police decide that their free speech could be a potential risk to the people around them, then at that moment, free speech, whilst it's enabled, also has restrictions in regard to the law. And I think that what it is that it means that there is a weakness and an ability for any sort of terrorist attack or something like that. Not that they would perpetrate that, but the point is somebody could pretend to be part of this group. And I think for the safety of the people around, on that occasion, it's not that it's not that their free speech is curtailed. I don't mind hearing people protest. I think that's perfectly fine, but I think it needs to be balanced with the interest of the people around. And this is a state event where all the members of the royal family are there, the relevant ones. We can't have anything happen to all of those at once. Otherwise, we've got Harry and Meghan left because Harry's scarpered. So, this is just. I think
the police handled everything very well.
I think it's a case of national security. I don't think there's. But again, I don't think it's wrong for people to protest. But national security, if they balance the two, all dignitaries from all around the world, national security won on that occasion. But you can still speak, you can still protest, you can still send messages and say what you think. But if we're worried about the safety of the people in the crowd, and we don't know everything about those people that are there in terms of the protesters, then I think it's fair enough.
Yeah, it's fair enough. We're disagreeing a lot.
We agree. No, we disagree on Harry because you felt sorry for him, and I did not. Not even.
I didn't feel sorry. No.
It's got not even a little bit. Now I slightly missed this bit, the balcony. I missed that, but you saw it all. Yeah, I was on my way there.
Yeah, it was absolutely sensational because the police suddenly allowed these thousands of people to walk down the Mall and stay there at the balcony, and you just couldn't believe how many people they were. If you ever thought that there wouldn't be enough people there that make a fuss or they'd all walk off as soon as possible in the pouring rain. Oh, no. And there's this wonderful shot from behind the King and Queen and looking down onto the balcony. And anybody who said nobody likes the King and Queen, nobody wants them to serve, we ought to destroy the monarchy. There were just thousands and thousands. You could see all the way up the Mall that it was absolutely packed. And then there were all the people round the palace. And when people were singing "God Save the King," and they couldn't believe their eyes, really. And then you had all the young, you had Camilla's grandchildren, and you had Charles's 3 grandchildren from Prince William. And everyone was standing there and smiling and thinking, phew, thank goodness it's over. That enormous relief when perhaps you've done the most incredible exam you could ever imagine. And the satisfaction that it had worked. It was really captivating, and it made you want a tear to come down your eyes. It was just so beautiful and lovely. And they looked so relieved.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah.
But then you've got Adjoa Ando watching the balcony, seeing a completely different scene altogether. All she could say was that they were terribly white. I mean, that is sorry. First of all, is it terrible to be white? And secondly,
no.
Why would you think that somebody who is from a white family wouldn't have white relatives? I mean, you can't just inject a bit of diversity and inclusion in a family setting to fit a quota. It doesn't work like that. I mean, it was absurd.
It was absurd.
It was an absurd thing to say.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that you had Marnie Class who looked horrified. Then what was the name of that? Was it Judy Etchingham? It was her on the other side, I think, from ITV. She was one of the pundits for ITV, and she was like nodding, and I'm like, "What do you? How could you entertain this comment?"
When she came on afterwards,
if you were to see the royal family of, say, Ghana, or the royal family of Japan, or the royal family of any country, those families would be probably whatever color they are. So if the Chinese royal family, if there was one, they'd be Chinese. The African royal families would be probably black because they're mostly African. If you're in a country that's predominantly white and the royal family are predominantly white, then it is no surprise that the family.
It doesn't mean anything.
Why would you see that though? I don't understand why she saw that. I didn't look at the balcony.
I think that's actually looking for problems. It's actually looking for something you can criticize. I think that's what it is. Because if you just see a family up there, you just take it for granted. That is a family, and that's what they're like. But if you're looking to say something that you'll get a bit of publicity, or you show that you are supporting other black people, then you're looking for that. And it was ridiculous. And when she came back and said, I didn't want to cause any upset to people, and the person from ITV said, oh, don't worry, nobody was concerned about it. Oh no,
It's
that's
record
not so.
complaints. I don't
It
think
was
so.
record complaints for the year. People are writing to Ofcom and saying this is outrageous. Well, of course it is outrageous. And if you can turn it round and have it with someone who was white saying that of a family who is black,
could you imagine if
they'd
they
lose their
said,
job.
you said, oh God, it's incredibly black up there. There would be a problem with that.
Yeah.
So I think if it can't be said in one way, then it shouldn't be allowed to be said the other way. It is very, very simple. But what concerns me more is that there is a certain, some people see everything through the prism of colour, and it gets really, I think it's toxic. She would argue, Adra Ando would argue that, and she does argue that what it was that she'd just seen this wonderful diverse display of different ethnicities, having watched the church ceremony. And then she said that suddenly it was incredibly white or terribly white, is what she was saying. She would argue that it wasn't to do with anything other than that. And that is her defense on this. But my take on it is that if you constantly see things through the prism of colour, then in the end, who is the person that is racist? If you're making judgments based on the colour of someone's skin or the judgment, then that is racism. And I think people speaking in this way, it needs to stop. People need to stop seeing colour and start looking at the qualities of that person, how they carry themselves, how they conduct themselves. I think the colour of someone's skin is a red herring. It's irrelevant. And people like that need to stop making comments like that. And I'm glad everyone's outraged, because I am.
Well spoken. I agree with you 100% on that one.
I've got to say, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for all the emails that you sent us. So the email address is there. But we've had some great responses.
Yeah, we have. And what people all around the world, actually, which is amazing. We've got one here from Sydney, Australia, and her name is Alison Bolton. Thank you, Alison.
Hi, Alison.
And it's, hi, Angela and Nina. Looking forward to the coronation this Saturday.
Call me Nina.
Nana, sorry.
You didn't. You called me Nana.
Yes, Nana. Looking forward to the coronation this Saturday from Sydney, Australia. Getting up at 6 a.m. Sydney time to watch. Then at 12 o'clock, going to a friend's place for cheese and crackers to watch more.
Nice.
Have a lovely day, ladies.
Love it.
And to you.
Love this one. Now, this one's from AH. You didn't put your name, but AH. And you said, I've watched you both, Nana in blue V-neck and Angela in the red blouse. I got a V-neck, but it wasn't this one. But you asked viewers to email in. So here I am. Said, I love watching you both on GB News, because that's the channel I work for and I'm often on there. Don't forget to download the GB News app. You can see my show Saturday, Sunday, 3 till 6 UK time. Might as well. I mean, I'll chip that in there. And so I love watching you both. A breath of fresh air. I am a great royalist, and in my 71 years, always have been. I'll be watching the coronation at home by myself, so I have no interruptions. I can enjoy it fully. Well, I hope you did. It said, God bless our King, Princess of Wales and their children, and our worthy royal family. No is my king. No, N-O is my king. What that means, but anyway, that's lovely. Thank you very much for that.
And here we've got another one from Alida Coty. Thank you, Alida. Hey, Nana and Angela. I'm all set for the coronation. Tea and crumpets are ready to go along with a bottle of champagne and my tiara.
Oh, very nice.
Love you, ladies, and your channel. Always entertaining, and you tell it like it is. I will be up very, very early to watch all the excitement and all the pomp and ceremony that the UK does so well. Cheers from Canada. Cheers.
And this is Sahila, I think it is, says, hello, Nana and Angela. I'll be on my own with some fish and vegetable dinner for dinner and a glass of red wine. Though white wine is better with fish, I think, so I'd agree with you on that. But I do like a nice glass of Shiraz. I'll be glued to my TV or tablet at 7:30 a.m. throughout the weekend. Enjoy your program as always. Listen, we love your messages.
Yes, thank you.
So good. We appreciate that.
I'm just surprised though that none of them have tried the coronation quiche.
Oh, they have a few that have thought about coronation quiche. Yeah,
good.
There's a Mari Shirkin. She says she was so excited to see the Royal Rumble 4 while she was watching in the lounge at the airport. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be flying to London to celebrate the coronation as well as my 60th birthday. So you were in London for the coronation. So good. It's a long email here, this one. But she said, God save the King. Long may he reign. That's Mari. Mari, thank you. Love the message. Really.
Yeah, it's really lovely that we hear back from you and hear a bit about you and while you're watching us and while you were at the coronation. It's very, very heartwarming, I think.
Yes, and I'll do one more then. Denise Grimes, she says, hello, Nana and Angela from Southern California. Lovely lady, I bet it's lovely and warm there. So I think you asked us what we were doing on the King's coronation. I'll be watching GB News' coverage of the coronation. Very sensible, which means I may have to get up in the wee hours of Saturday morning. My sister will do at her home, and we'll be texting throughout the coverage. I'm ready with my homemade scones, clotted cream, jam, lemon, curd, English muffins, tea, coffee, shortbread, McVitie's, BRB biscuits. Later, my husband and I hope to pop over to our local British pub, yes, in South California, and celebrate and sticky toffee pudding and a meal. The pub is breaking out the champagne and showing the coronation on replay. Have a fantastic coronation weekend. That's Denise.
It's so lovely to hear from people abroad, isn't it? But there's been so much criticism and nastiness, and actually, when you get down to it, there's hundreds of millions of people who actually enjoy it and want to wish the King well and the British royal family.
Well, listen, it's been such a pleasure. We're going to play you out with this fabulous piece. Peta provided us some intro and an outro. So it's been Royal Rumble 5, the coronation special. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Listen to the last 14 seconds, please.